The Flower Ornament Scripture, Book 24, Eulogies in the Tushita Palace. Then, due to the spiritual force of the Buddha, a great enlightening being from each of the 10 directions, each accompanied by as many enlightening beings as atoms in 10,000 Buddha lands, came to where the Buddha was, from worlds beyond lands as numerous as atoms in 10,000 Buddha lands. Their names were Diamond Banner, Banner of Steadfastness, Banner of Bravery, Banner of Light, Banner of Knowledge, Jewel Banner, Banner of Energy, Banner of Purification, Constellation Banner, and Banner of Truth. The worlds they came from were called Fine Jewel World, Fine Music World, Fine Silver World, Fine Gold World, Fine Crystal World, Fine Diamond World, Fine Lotus World, Fine Blue Lotus World, Fine Sandalwood World, and Fine Fragrance World. They each purified and cultivated religious practice with Buddhas, the names Purification, Constellation Banner, and Banner of Truth. The worlds they came from were called Fine Jewel World, Fine Music World, Fine Silver World, Fine Gold World, Fine Crystal World, Fine Diamond World, Fine Lotus World, Fine Blue Lotus World, Fine Sandalwood World, and Fine Fragrance World. They each purified and cultivated religious practice with Buddhas, the names of which Buddhas were Banner of Inexhaustibility, Wind Banner, Banner of Liberation, Banner of Dignity, Banner of Understanding of Characteristics, Banner of Eternity, Banner of Supreme Excellence, Banner of Freedom, Banner of Purity, and Banner of Observation. When those enlightening beings arrived at the Buddha's spot, they prostrated themselves before the Buddha. Then, by the Buddha's mystic power, he magically produced lion seats of masses of beautiful jewels, covered with nets of jewels all around, and the hosts of enlightening beings, according to the direction from which they had come, sat on those seats. Their bodies all emanated countless beams of pure light. This boundless light all came from the enlightening beings' pure mind jewels, their great vows which were free from all evils. They revealed the pure phenomena of the powers of all Buddhas. By the power of the impartial vision of all enlightening beings, they were able to universally save all sentient beings. They were a gladdening sight in all worlds. Those who saw them did not do so in vain. All attained harmony and tranquility. Those enlightening beings had all already perfected innumerable virtues. For example, they traveled to all Buddha lands without hindrance. They saw the pure body of reality which rests on nothing. With the body of knowledge, they manifested countless bodies going everywhere in the 10 directions to serve the Buddhas. They entered into the Buddha's innumerable, boundless, inconceivable powers. They dwelt in the medium of omniscience. By the light of knowledge, they comprehended all things. They had attained fearlessness in all respects. They taught wherever they were. Their powers of elucidation forever inexhaustible. With great knowledge and wisdom they opened the gate of concentration spells. With the eye of wisdom they entered the profound realm of truth. The realm of their knowledge was boundless and ultimately pure, like space itself. As in the palace of the Tushita heaven in this world, the hosts of enlightening beings gathered like this. The same thing transpired in all the Tushita heavens in the 10 directions. The names of the enlightening beings who gathered, the names of their countries, and the Buddhas there were all the same. Then the world-honored one emanated countless beams of light from the wheel marks on his knees, illuminating the entire space of the cosmos in the 10 directions. The enlightening beings in all worlds all saw this miraculous display of the Buddha, and the enlightening beings here saw the miraculous displays of all the Buddhas in other worlds. These enlightening beings had all similarly planted roots of goodness in the distant past, along with Vairochana Buddha, cultivating enlightening practice. They all had awakened to and entered the free, extremely profound liberation of the Buddhas, and had attained the undifferentiated cosmic body, entering all lands without dwelling anywhere. They saw countless Buddhas and went to serve them all. In a single mental instant, they traversed the cosmos freely and without hindrance. Their minds and intellects were pure, like priceless jewels. Innumerable Buddhas always guarded them mindfully, sharing their power with them. They reached the ultimate, supreme other shore. By pure mindfulness, they continually dwelt in highest awareness. In every moment of thought, they continually entered into the realm of omniscience. They put the small in the large, and the large in the small, free in all ways, with no obstruction whatsoever. They had already attained the Buddha body, and dwelt in the same abode as the Buddhas. They had attained omniscience, and produced their bodies from omniscience. They were able to enter the spheres of action of all enlightened ones. They opened up innumerable gates of knowledge and wisdom. They reached the other shore of indestructible great knowledge, attained adamantine concentration, and cut off all doubts and confusion. They had attained the autonomous spiritual powers of Buddhas, teaching and taming countless numbers of sentient beings in the lands of the 10 directions. Though they had no attachments to any categories or phenomena, they were able to learn and develop ultimate skill in use of doctrines and to establish all teachings conducive to enlightenment. Hosts of enlightening beings with such infinite treasuries of all inexhaustible pure virtues of past, present, and future, all came and assembled at the Buddha's place. The same thing occurred at the places of all the Buddhas revealed by the light. Then the enlightening being Diamond Banner, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "The Buddha does not appear in the world, and has no extinction either. By the power of his great original vow, he demonstrates his freedom. This truth is inconceivable. It is not in the sphere of mind. When knowledge reaches the other shore, one then sees the realm of the Buddhas. The physical body is not the Buddha, neither is the audible voice. Yet, not apart from form and sound, can Buddha's mystic power be perceived. Those of little knowledge cannot know the true realm of the Buddhas. After long cultivation of purifying action, will one be able to comprehend. The truly awake comes from nowhere, and also goes nowhere. The pure, refined physical body appears through spiritual power. Manifesting the body of an enlightened one in innumerable worlds, widely expounding the subtle teachings, his mind has no attachments. His knowledge, being boundless, comprehends all things. Entering everywhere in the universe, he manifests autonomous powers. Sentient beings and all phenomena he comprehends unhindered. Everywhere manifesting physical forms, he is omnipresent in all lands. If you want to see omniscience and soon attain highest awareness, you should, with pure, clear mind, cultivate enlightening practice. If any see such mystic powers of the enlightened one, they should serve the Supreme Honored One, and not give rise to doubt. Then the enlightening being, Banner of Steadfastness, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, The enlightened one is incomparable, most profound, inexplicable, beyond all manner of speech, pure as space itself. Behold the human lion's autonomous mystic power, beyond discrimination, yet causing distinct perceptions. In order to expound the profound and subtle teaching, the guide, for this reason, manifests this peerless body. This is great knowledge, the realm of all the Buddhas. If any want to know, let them approach the enlightened. With mental action always pure, making offerings to the Buddhas with never any weariness, one can enter the Buddha way. Filled with endless virtues, steadfast in the will for enlightenment, thereby the net of doubt is removed, and one gazes tirelessly on the Buddha. By comprehending all things does one become a true child of Buddha. Such a person can know the Buddha's autonomous power. As explained by those of vast knowledge, will is the root of the teachings. One must develop supreme aspiration, determined to seek highest awakening. If any respect the Buddha and want to requite the Buddha's grace, they will never leave the abode of all the Buddhas. How can intelligent people who've seen and heard the Buddha not carry out pure vows and tread the path the Buddha traversed? Then Banner of Bravery, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "Just as a clear eye can see colors due to the sun, so too can a pure heart see the enlightened by Buddha's power. As by the power of effort one can plumb the depths of the sea, so too can the power of knowledge see innumerable Buddhas. As in a fertile, watered field, whatever's planted will grow, so does the ground of a pure mind produce enlightened qualities. As a man who's found a jewel mine is forever freed from poverty, an enlightening being finding the Buddha teaching is free from defilement, pure in mind. Just as a true panacea can eliminate all toxins, Buddha's teaching too is like this. It annihilates all afflictions. Truly genuine teachers are praised by the enlightened. Through their spiritual power, we get to hear the Buddha teachings. Even if for countless eons one gave precious things to Buddha, if one doesn't know the real nature of Buddha, this is not called giving. Infinite physical characteristics adorn the Buddha's body, yet it is not in physical form that the Buddha can be seen. The enlightened one, truly awake, is peaceful, never moving, yet can manifest his body throughout all worlds in the 10 directions. Just as space itself is unborn and unperishing, so is the truth of the Buddhas ultimately birthless and deathless. Then Banner of Light, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "In the human and celestial realms in all the worlds they see everywhere the enlightened one's body of pure, wondrous form. Just as the power of one mind can produce various minds, so can one Buddha body manifest all Buddhas everywhere. Enlightenment is non-dual, and also has no marks, yet in the realm of duality he manifests a glorified body. Comprehending the nature of things is empty. Their origination like apparitions, his realm of actions inexhaustible. Thus does the guide appear. Pure is the reality body of all Buddhas of all times. They manifest sublime physical forms wherever and however people need to be taught. The enlightened do not think, "I'll produce such a body." They manifest spontaneously without discriminating. The realm of reality is undifferentiated and also has no basis, and yet in the world it manifests countless bodies. The Buddha's bodies are not emanations, and yet not other than emanations. In the reality where there are no emanations, he appears to have emanated forms. True awareness cannot be measured. The reality realms equal to space, profound, vast, without bound or bottom, utterly beyond the power of speech. The enlightened one has mastered the road leading everywhere. Through the myriad lands of the cosmos, he goes without obstruction. Then, banner of knowledge, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "If one can believe and accept omniscience without obstruction, and practice enlightening ways, one's mind will be immeasurable. In all lands, Buddha manifests countless bodies, yet the bodies stay in no place, and he dwells not in the real. Each one of the enlightened manifests bodies by spiritual powers. Even in unthinkable eons, they never could be fully counted. The number of all living beings of all times may be known, but the number of Buddha's manifestations cannot ever be found. Sometimes they show 1 or 2, up to countless bodies, appearing everywhere, in all lands, yet really with no duality. Just as the clear full moon appears in all bodies of water, and while the reflections are numberless, the real moon is not too, so does the one of unimpeded knowledge with perfect true enlightenment universally appear in all lands. Yet the Buddha body is non-dual. It is not 1 and yet not 2, and also not immeasurable. According to the needs of the taught, do countless bodies appear. The Buddha body is not past and also not future. In a single instant he appears to be born, to become enlightened, and pass away. As forms produced by magic have no birth and no origination, so too is the Buddha body thus, appearing without any birth. Then Jewel Banner, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "The Buddha body is infinite, yet can manifest finite bodies. According to what needs to be seen, does the guide appropriately appear. The Buddha body has no location, yet fills all places. Like space, it's boundless. Such is its inconceivability. It is not in the province of mental function, and mind does not arise therein. In the realm of the Buddhas, ultimately there's no birth or death. Like what is seen by clouded eyes is neither internal nor external, so also you should know is the world's vision of the Buddhas. In order to benefit living beings do the enlightened ones appear in the world. Sentient beings see them as coming forth, but in reality there is no such thing. A Buddha cannot be seen in terms of a land, or day or night, nor indeed can one be seen in terms of years, months, or moments. Sentient beings say, Buddha was enlightened on a certain day, but enlightenment in reality is not bound to time. The enlightened are beyond discrimination. Not of the world, they transcend all accounts. All guides of past, present, and future appear in this way. Just as the pure orb of the sun doesn't conjoin with the dark night, yet we speak of such and such a day and night, so is the principle of the Buddhas. Though the ages of past, present, and future do not conjoin with the enlightened, yet we speak of the Buddhas of past, present, and future. Such is the principle of the guides. Then, Banner of Energy, empowered by the Buddha, looked over 10 directions and said in verse, "All the guides' bodies are the same, as are their meanings. Throughout the lands of the 10 directions, they appear variously according to needs. Observe the honored sage. His activity is most unique. He fills the entire cosmos and everything that's in it. The Buddha body is not within and also not outside. It manifests by spiritual power. Such is the teaching of the guide. According to deeds accumulated in former times by the various species of living beings, such various different bodies appear, each one dissimilar. Thus the bodies of the Buddhas are infinite, uncountable. Except for the great enlightened one, no one can conceive of them. Just as the self, being inconceivable, cannot be grasped by mentation, so too the inconceivability of Buddhas is not manifested by mentation. Just as all things originate due to multiple conditions, so also does seeing Buddha necessarily depend on many good works. Just as the wish-fulfilling jewel can satisfy beings' hearts, so can the teachings of the Buddhas completely fulfill all aspirations. In infinite lands, the guides appear in the world. In accord with the power of their vows, they respond in every place. Then Banner of Purification, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "The light of great knowledge of the enlightened universally purifies all worlds. Once the worlds are purified, he reveals the enlightening teachings. Even if people want to see Buddhas as numerous as sentient beings, the Buddha responds to their wishes, yet really comes from nowhere. With Buddha as the object, concentrating continuously, one can see Buddhas as many as thoughts. Carrying out pure ways, fulfilling virtues, one can concentrate unremittingly on omniscience. The guides expound teachings to beings in accord with their needs. Wherever any can be taught, he manifests the supreme incarnation. The bodies of Buddha and the world's beings are all without self. Realizing this, he attains true awakening and also explains it to others. All the human lions, with boundless powers of freedom, manifest bodies equal to thoughts, those bodies each being different. As are the bodies of the beings of the worlds, so too are the bodies of Buddhas. When one really knows their inherent nature, that is called Buddhahood. The enlightened see and know all, clearly comprehending all things. Buddhahood and enlightenment are both ungraspable. The guide has no coming or going, and also no place of abode. Departing from all delusions is called true, perfect enlightenment. Then Constellation Banner, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "The realizer of thusness, without dwelling anywhere, abides in all lands, going to all lands, seen in all places. Buddha manifests all bodies according to sentient beings' minds, attaining the way, teaching the truth, and finally passing utterly away. The Buddhas are inconceivable. Who can conceive of the Buddhas? Who can see the truly awake? Who can manifest the supreme? All beings are thus, and so are the states of the Buddhas. There's not a single thing in thusness that has birth or death. Sentient beings erroneously discriminate. This is Buddha, this is the world. For one realizing the true nature of things, there's no Buddha and no world. The realizer of thusness appears before all, causing sentient beings to believe and rejoice. But the essence of Buddha is ungraspable. and they are not seeing anything either. If one can, in the world, depart from all attachments with unimpeded mind, joyful, one will awaken to the truth. That manifested by spiritual power is what is called Buddha. Though one search in all times, past, present, or future, it has no existence at all. If one can know in this way the mind and all things, one will know and see all, and soon become enlightened. In words are expressed the powers of Buddhas, but true enlightenment transcends words, though it be provisionally explained by words. Then Banner of Truth, empowered by the Buddha, looked over the 10 directions and said in verse, "It's better to always experience all the pains of the world than to be apart from the Buddha and not see Buddha's mystic powers. If there are any sentient beings who have not yet set their minds on enlightenment, if they once hear the name of Buddha, they'll surely attain enlightenment. People with knowledge and wisdom, once they set their minds on enlightenment, will surely become supreme Buddhas. Have no doubt of that. The mystic power of the enlightened is rarely encountered, even in countless ages. If you engender a single thought of faith, you'll soon ascend to the highest path. Even if in every instant you give offerings to countless Buddhas, if you don't know the real truth, this is not to be called offering. If you hear such a teaching, the Buddhas are born from this. Though you experience countless pains, you'll not quit enlightening practices. Once having heard of great knowledge, the state entered by the Buddhas everywhere in the universe, you'll become a guide of all times. Though one pass the whole future traveling to all Buddha lands, if one doesn't seek this wondrous truth, one will never become enlightened. Sentient beings from beginningless past have long revolved in birth and death. They do not know the real truth, so Buddhas come forth in the world. Truths cannot be destroyed, and no one can destroy them. The great light of mystic power is revealed throughout the world.